Good afternoon and welcome to another Kerfuffle Showcase. Delighted today to be welcoming Tom here. Hello Tom, how are you from sortmove?
Good afternoon, Simon. Very well, thank you. Yourself?
Yes, exceptionally well. You're looking far better presented than myself, but as always, I just apologise.
I heard this was quite a highbrow spotlight session.
Us prop tech geezers are allowed to get away with it, I believe.
Indeed.
Good stuff. Tom, sortmove, give us a bit of a background, both about yourself and about the company, so that people obviously will understand where we're going over the course of the next 45 minutes.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'll start by talking about myself, if that's okay, because being an ex-estate agent, we're all about blowing our own trumpet, aren't we?
You're on the right show. You're on the
right. So I joined Sort Group about 15, 16 months ago or so, having spent 16 years at LSL. So I wore many hats. I think I've pretty much got the whole T-shirt collection from my experiences there. I started off managing branches for Redrains, including opening a flagship store in Manchester city centre. Did that for 8 years. Ended up taking an underperforming branch to the Esters within a 15-month period. After doing that for 8 years, I was presented with the opportunity to look after the conveyancing operation for Redrains. So that was something that I was particularly passionate about because I understood the advantages and how to portray those to our clients in utilising those services, when to use them, and how they would affect and impact the transaction. So yeah, looked after that. We upped the penetration rate during my time, and then towards the end of my tenure there, we created an in-house client onboarding service, which is what I'm trying to emulate now here at Sort Group, and the sortmove brand in particular. So if I switch my attention to Sort Group, I think one of the important things to get across first and foremost is we're not one of the new boys on the block. So Sort Group has existed for 11 years. So that was born in 2009. So our CEO, Kevin Tunnicliffe, he's got an extensive financial services background. He was disenfranchised with the ancillary services market when he was a mortgage broker back then. So he thought, I know, I'll start my own and make it much better than anything else that's out there. So fast forward a few years, that is now the brand is known as Sort Refer, and that is multi-award winning year after year, both for its legal services, marketing and technology, and we've got mortgage brokers coming back to that time and time again. About 4 years ago, Group decided, rightly or wrongly, to start its own law firm. So we have Sort Legal, which is our own CLC practice. Now this also gives us a different slant, if you like, for agents, because Sort Legal is purely B2B. So we're only handling work that comes in from our referrers. So that means we've got synergy with our partners that provide business to us. So it's not just about the end consumer; it is actually about the referral network that provide the work to us. So we don't lose sight of how we need to communicate via those channels. So I think that gives us a nice little edge, because it helps us to better control capacity, which is a bit of a hot potato at the moment, particularly with the spike in cases that we're seeing because of the stamp duty gold rush, and gives us different lines of management throughout that structure as well. So we're able to nurture and grow good relationships through that line.
How difficult is it to stand out from the crowd there in a conveyancing sense? Because is it easy? Are agents, do they ask the right questions, or
do they ask the right questions to clients? You mean?
Well, yeah, to find out from the conveyancers themselves. Do they do they get after the right metrics? Are they just worried about the amount of money that they might make? Are they, on the whole, do you find that they ask the right questions in terms of how many, what numbers of cases the staff members look after? What are the actual times spent? What are the actual times achieved and everything else? How do you?
I think, unfortunately, the honest answer to that is I don't think a lot of agents have taken the time to better understand that side of the industry. If I think back to my days at LSL, but also what I'm experiencing now with independents, is a lot of them just haven't taken the time to get to know their conveyancing partners, and I think that's a really important thing to establish from the start, because I think both sides need to understand what each other does. So I think there's a lot of it. This will come down to training within estate agent operations, but I think unfortunately there's a lot of say entry-level negotiators who maybe haven't got a full grasp of the process, and it can be quite frustrating, I think, to a fee and a case manager at a law firm when the first phone call comes in from a referrer asking if it's ready to exchange yet, and there's probably not even a mortgage offer or something like that on the table yet. So I think critically understanding what each other does. And I think I'd say the same about conveyance as well. Understand what that estate agent is doing and actually how they can be helpful. So I think there's still a lot of conveyancers out there that probably don't utilise the estate agency staff to their advantage. Because the good agents out there will get involved, and they will collaborate with their law firm partner. So I think it's just about that understanding between all parties, and if they get that right and make that click, they'll have a successful relationship.
Okay. That's interesting. And so talk us through again some of the services that you've got at the Sort Group.
Yeah, so as I say, Sort Refer is for mortgage brokers.
Yep.
So we've got some nice remortgage products and things like that, as you would expect. So Sort Legal then handles a good number of remortgage and transactional cases. Now Sort Move, which I head up, and I joined to drive forward, wasn't always called Sort Move. So when I started, the brand was called Agent Butler, for anybody out there that may remember that name. Now, the Agent Butler had some of the same suppliers on as the Sort Refer panel in terms of conveyancers and surveyors and other things. But what I wanted to try and create straight away was a bit of clarity between the two services, some clear distinctions. And the problem with Sort Refer was it was heavy with suppliers that liked dealing with brokers, which can sometimes be very different from dealing with estate agents. So given my background, I've got a lot of conveyancing friends out there who love working with estate agents. So first and foremost, it was looking at changing the suppliers and integrating some agent-friendly law firms. Secondly, was the rebrand. So I wasn't too fond of the kind of butler image, which does come across as a bit Victorian and single sex and not really it fits in today's modern world. But also, and this might go against the grain a little bit from some other providers out there, but it did have a concierge service. Now I'm not a fan of that personally, and also I know others that have tried it and it's not quite worked out for them. So that concierge style service would be where we have employed teams within Sort Group, where agents can send leads through, and we would engage with the client to try and convince them to use the conveyancing survey report, etc. Now, the historical problem I found with that, and I saw it myself at LSL because we tried it in one or two different ways, was that it just created a bit of lazy estate agency.
Okay.
In that we were getting very cold leads coming through, customers thinking, "Who are you? Why are you calling me?" Why isn't my estate agent telling me about these things? And that resonates really well with me because of my experiences when I was operating estate agency branches as well. I liked the control of connecting those pieces of the transaction together myself. Maybe a little bit too over controlling, but I think a lot of estate agents are a little bit like that. They like to keep a grasp on it so they can keep their own eyes and ears for what's going on within that transaction. So yeah, rather than saying, oh great, there's somebody else that can deal with that, I'll just ping a message over with a name and a telephone number on there, and it's not warm, and it just sets the whole thing off on the wrong foot. Yeah. So our agency partners that we work with, I will talk to them about the best ways of incorporating the conversation, when to pick up on, when is the best time to talk about conveyancing with a seller, when is the best time then to pick up the conversation with the buyer, because buyers can be harder to convert because they're not the natural client of the agent. So that was one thing that I looked to take out straight away, because I was looking at the numbers through that, and the hit rate on it was, it wasn't where it needed to be, and I knew why, and that was because of the quality of the leads coming through.
And Tom, just on that, how kind of how much did you have to refine that? Is it a bit of a black art? Everyone talks about the knowing the right time and everything else. Yeah. There, does it really make that much of a difference? By just shifting the emphasis on and the timing of it.
I think it does, and I think what it boils down to is adding value to your core proposition. Now, this is something that I talk about with agents quite a bit, because I remember when I was up against competition in the marketplace, and it's like it is dog eat dog. Everybody is trying to claim to be the best estate agent out there. Everybody's printing off their portal graphs about how many they've sold over the past 12 months, and
love a portal graph.
Well, agents do. I'm not convinced that clients do. Yeah. And if I'm honest, if putting the client shoes on, I don't give a monkeys about how many properties somebody sold. What I want to know is, how can you, Mr. or Mrs. Estate Agent, help me right now with my circumstances? Yeah. Flogging a different style property 10 times over the past month, that means nothing to me. So it's about it is about being different as an estate agent, not trying to be better than the competition, because everybody's trying to do the same thing and claim that they're doing it better. It's about being different, and that was the stance I took when I was operating. I was pretty much the only one talking about conveyancing and other services in market appraisals, and I got really good feedback from clients, because I said to me, do you know what, you're the only one that talked to me about that. You're the only one that said actually what happens once I found a buyer and what it takes to navigate to get through to exchange and completion beyond that.
And it's amazing how often we overestimate how much vendors know about the whole process, don't we? There is such a demographic out there that need hand-holding, even where you think they kind of should have known this. So to be able to put their minds at rest that yes, look, this is a quite, in some areas, an arcane system, but actually we're the people to hold your hands right, is still very important, isn't it?
It is, and that's why I firmly believe that estate agent is the best person or people to hold their hands. As a client, I don't think I'd be too thrilled about somebody from a third party company ringing me up to talk about those services. I'd be thinking, well, as I said before, why hasn't the estate agent told me about that? And straight away, I think they've missed a trick there by not creating that really good rapport with the client. About stating, right, well, this is how long on average a property takes to find a buyer. This is how long on average it takes to get through to completion once a buyer's found. Here's what we do to influence the timings. Yeah. That is about the suppliers that they are collaborating with, the timings of when certain events should occur. So the obvious one for me at the moment, and I suppose a bit of breaking news live on this session is, we've got our Fast Start digital seller onboarding proposition going live today, which I think you've got a little video to play over.
You want me to pop it up?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind popping that on now. So, so this is something that I've always been a big advocate of with sellers.
Yeah.
And that is addressing some of the documentation and early stages of the legal work earlier in the process. And it's the right time to do it when a property comes on, because you just eliminate some of the little niggles that can cause delays in the transaction. So making sure that you have got signatures from all parties whose names on the title, and getting the protocol documents filled in straight away. So we've got our online TA 6, 10, and 7 if needed. We're integrating with land registry, so we'll grab the title and check that over. Also, we're partnering with Credas and doing biometric checks and AML as well. And the beauty of that part is, if the client gets that done on day one, then the agency can utilize that for their own compliance instead of getting that at their own cost.
Yeah, great.
So that comes part of the proposition, and we've got a document uploader as well. So anything that the client mentions in terms of, for example, new windows, they've got the opportunity to upload the FENSA certificate and drop that in. That's all held electronically. And we've got a support team here at sortmove that we're going to be growing, of home move advisors, who part of their task will be to monitor the return rate of these packs, so we can make sure that clients are getting these done and return in good time, all digitally, of course, so there's no lengthy paperwork or anything like that. So really simple and easy to use, and what that will do is they should be able to turn around that in quick time. I've been through it a few times myself. Only takes about just over an hour or so to get all the documents completed and go through the selfie ID checks and things like that, and getting all that done in place does a few things. Firstly, it shows motivation to a potential buyer. If a buyer's looking at 2 or 3 options maybe and thinking, which ones I'm more sure about, if they've got 2 houses that with different agents, for argument's sake, and they're going, do you know what, either one of them could actually be good enough for me. If they realise that the one of them had a really motivated seller that has got part of their process done and ticked off and underway, then they may see better assurance with that one going through, and may go for that option. I've seen that happen.
Why would you not, really? Wouldn't you?
And that will, so getting all that done will shave 3 to 4 weeks off the sales progression time.
Wow, that's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, really impressive.
Yeah, but the bit that's really important about all of that, though, is the agent incorporating that as part of their proposition, because if they don't, so they're just going to be like the crowd, just talk about themselves and how what price they're going to get for the property and how they're going to find the buyer. But those steps now, given how long it is taking on average now for transactions to get through, given what the national fall through rate is, it's really important to talk about these things in the home. And given my background and my experiences, I've got little strap lines and techniques that I'm quite happy to talk to business owners about that want to review how they talk about these services. In the home.
So that's very much, as you said, leaning on your redrain days from LSL, changing the rules almost of the engagement, isn't it? To change them to KPIs that, while still easily understandable, are demonstrably important to the vendor. So and actually will instantly I could imagine, act as a bit of a depth charge for the next agents. If they haven't got their A game together there, they're going to look very woolly, aren't they, in terms of not being the property expert they pretended they're going to be.
Exactly, and you touched on it before with what estate agency clients want at the moment. I think what's really important to remember is access of information. Because if somebody's unsure about what the process is, they can find it out quite easily without engaging with an estate agent or a law firm. So they're already armed with information, and perhaps they're waiting to hear from the estate agent that they want to choose. Right, here's my checklist. Which of these are these estate agents going to talk about? If it sounds like they're just talking about themselves too much and not telling me about how they're going to help me navigate through the process, maybe I'm not going to be interested in those ones.
Yeah, it was Josh Fegan, wasn't it? The Australian trainer started talking when he came over many times, changing that conversation piece to, you know, how many days on the market. Okay, the Aussies have a lot of auctions going on, so it's easier there.
Yeah.
Changing that days on the market to actually sell the property, the percentage of asking price achieved there, you know, things that straight away are instantly identifiable and, more importantly, comparable. So there's no hiding from it as well, which is the great thing about all this. And transparency can only merit those those who should benefit as well, shouldn't it?
Yeah. Touching on the comparables bit piece. A technique that I used when I was valuing and talking about our services in the home was I didn't necessarily use. I mean, it is important to talk about comparable properties and pricing because that helps you gauge the right pitch to go in at. But my main tool that I used was, and I kept this updated so that it wasn't old information. I had a very simple laminated A4. It had four properties on it. 2 good examples, 2 bad examples. And it was a timeline across those of how long it took to find the buyer.
Yeah.
Once we found the buyer, how long it then took to get through to exchange and completion. The 2 good examples utilize our enhanced marketing and pedestal spotlights, whatever you want to call them, on the portals and things like that, and audio tours and floor plans, all those things that are talked about helping to achieve the best price in the best possible time. That is true if you are using them. But what I felt was important to show to potential vendors was that actually this is what happens when you don't use them as well. And there was a couple of examples of them taking longer to achieve that buyer. But then we talked about, right, we've got the buyer, what happens next? These 2 good examples, they utilise our in-house conveyancing service. Why did they use that? Because we start things earlier in the process. And on average, they went through 4 to 6 weeks quicker than the others. 2 bad examples, went and used their own local high street solicitors that didn't specialize in conveyancing. They took 18 weeks or so to go through. So it was showcasing the property that actually utilized what we're talking about and the impact that it had on timings. And if you talk about those and present that level of information in the right way, you are pitching yourself about the competition. And I think that's a lot more powerful than a look at me pie chart.
Yeah, I like the whole approach of the kind of what's hot and what's not. It's, you know, it's a nice way of getting across, isn't it, via the carrot or the stick? You know, which is the emotion that's going to resonate with the vendor there. And as you said, as long as it all holds together in terms of those comparables, you know, it's got to work, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's let's talk about sellers. Now they should be easier to capture because they're going to be their clients anyway. So if they're going to list the property with them, why wouldn't they go through some of their other ancillary services as well? But as I said, I can help businesses with strap lines and things like that to help that. What I'm getting asked about most at the moment is how that they can not only convince more buyers to use the additional services, but how they can get buyers to speed up the various milestones. So things like, when are they actually going to appoint the conveyancer? When are they going to pay for searches?
Yeah.
So this is something that I looked at quite extensively over the years. Now, I guess this is another little exclusive coming out via this session is, we are now incorporating free buyer protection into all purchase conveyancing cases. Now, that does 2 things straight away for us. The first one is the obvious one. It protects the buyer. So legal disbursements, such as the search packs, survey outlays, any mortgage-related costs, any storage costs that may come in. As long as that's instructed before they've spent any money, they're covered for a 12-month period, and that cover is sound as long as it's not them pulling out of the deal. But the way to use something like that, it's for me more important when putting that into practice. So if we think about a classic scenario with a buyer, an offer gets accepted. One of the first things they ask is, great, is that property now going to be taken off the market for me?
Yeah.
And that opens up a bit of debate about, well, you're the one that's agreed to buy it. So yeah, I guess technically we should be taking that off the market for you. Obviously, it's the seller's decision, but we don't want to make it that easy for them. We want to see some commitment and some action from that buyer. So we want them to be appointing their conveyancer. We want them to be paying for their searches, not waiting until they've got a survey back. So actually having a product like this, that can help add significant weight, if you like, and a bit of punch behind their offer, particularly if they're up against 2 or 3 other interested parties as well. So if they can say, look, I'm a more favourable buyer because I am going to get my conveyancing done straight away, I am going to pay for my searches straight away, and I'm happy to do that because I'm utilising the service that's backed by free buyer protection. So that's going to help the seller maybe accept that offer if it's an equal offer. And it probably will encourage them to take it off the market as well, if they're convinced, right, well, that buyer is motivated because they're spending money on it straight away.
Yeah, it's showing skin in the game again, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and all these things help, which is what we're all about, is driving that time down that it takes. From that offer being accepted to getting through to exchange and completion. That's what I was all about for the in-house brands at LSL with Retrains and Your Move. This is what I'm all about now with independents. We want to get pipeline conversion back down below 3 months, and we want to half the risk, at least half the risk of fall through rate versus the national picture, and what we're doing and what we're building, and we've got loads of other value adds that we're looking on our roadmap. We're well on our way to achieving that for our partners.
Well, tweaking your model so that first of all you can help the agents win business, but then having a laser focus as well on decreasing that time to help turn around the pipeline is a really nice position to be in, isn't it? If you can keep those core activities, you're not going to go far wrong, are you? Given the resources that you've got in place. Yeah.
No, and can I ask you a question here, Simon? What's the one thing that I haven't mentioned yet?
Price?
No, it's related to the pound sign.
I don't know. Go on, give me
referral fees.
Okay.
So there's a lot of businesses that that go in there straight away thinking it's all about the referral fees. Yeah. For me, this is my outlook on it. I have never thought about the referral fee first and foremost from these ancillary products. I have looked at them as tools to getting more of my core business across the line more often. And if agents have that mindset, it's taken away from price. And if price isn't the mindset when talking to an agent, it doesn't become a problem when a client talks about, oh, you're a little bit more expensive than other people. Yeah, but let me tell you why. This is what we do and how we do it.
I think what's fascinating there is when you say that, it seems so obvious as well, because actually those agents that, some of them good friends of mine that tend to bounce around quite often between is they're tending to focus on that referral fee as the main element there. And unsurprisingly, they're not getting to the core issue of realistically why they should be with you, are they? Yeah. It's really
exactly. So we're not about giving little bits of income up front as a sweetener or anything like that, because we don't want the focus to be on that. Because if that becomes the focus, then, as you say, the agents tend to forget a little bit about what the product does, what it's set out to achieve. That's what we're all about. So referral fees it's actually a bonus that they will earn a bit of income from it. But first and foremost, priority on the focus is what does that service do for that client? It's the client that's the most important person at the end of this. That client doesn't care about how much profit that agency is setting out to achieve via its ancillary services. It's the here and now. They do this once every 5, 8, 15 years, whatever it is. How is that agent going to help me right now?
And from the agent's perspective anyway, the big ticket item is obviously still protecting the fee and getting the property sold, of course. So, you can't just, as important as this is to some people's models, you've got to get those basics right. And it's clear that many conveyancers aren't because they are getting distracted by that old dollar sign, aren't they?
Indeed.
I've got one of your clients here that we've just had encourage everyone as usual to to go onto the people's landing pages and ensure them. We've got Leanne Fuller O'Grady here from Fuller O'Grady Estates. Excuse me, I've just blocked you for a minute. I think you can probably have a cup of tea.
It's all right. I'm sure nobody will mind.
So I'm sat on a pillow, so you can just see my cap. Love sortmove. I've used sortmove for a few months now. I have to say, when I set up my small estate agency up, I was worried about how I would get my clients speedy and professional quotes. With sortmove, I can do these quotes, tailor them to each client, include my own branding, and offer them a unique platform. I love the updates I get for sales going through, and also the incentive is very good for each file completion. So what's interesting there is, although, as you said yourself, look, that's not the main raison d'etre there, Leanne's clearly very pleased even with that side of things. But the crucial was she was looking for a speedy service, and so she's got a win-win.
Yeah, so it's important for agents like that, and I suppose that leads on to who we want to work with a little bit. We're not interested in I suppose networks of my old background, if we put it that way. We're here for the kind of small to medium operation. So Leanne, I'm sure she won't mind me saying, is part of the Keller Williams network. So we partner with some agents within there. We've got some that come that are part of EXP. So that for that kind of self-employed model in particular, we sit nicely next to them because we are absolutely an extension to their micro business. So where they may not have the time and the motivation to look at these things, what we're talking about, we can do, like, as I say, like quick demonstrations, quick chat throughs about techniques and what works, and they can go off and do that and utilize it. So that, I mean, that's one example. We've got some hybrid operation that comes from us. We've got some classic traditional single office or 4 to 5 office networks that work with us at the moment, and it's a nice spread because it proves that we're not an operation that is perceived as being suitable for one type of estate agency business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make. So essentially, when we talk a lot on this about, some products are quite easy. They fit in with single office agencies and corporates alike, and there's very little difference. But there's plenty of ones that actually meet a certain demographic, whether that's place in the market, top end, volume, geographical, size of agency. What it sounds to me, though, is you're more concerned actually, rather than some of those aspects of just sharing the right values. If they're coming to you and they can see the value, as you said, what you can actually offer, and can then themselves portray that and communicate that to their own clients, then you're going to both be in a good place, aren't you, to actually to work together over the coming holy months and years.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that theme, one word that I use quite extensively is collaboration. So that's collaboration with our partners. So you can see one of our strap lines behind me, the branding is that sortmove is created by and for agents. So I was an agent. Our early adopters, of course, are all agents, and we're working together to produce the products and services that we're putting out there. So that's what Sort Group, looking at the parent organisation, is all about. So Sort Refer is very successful because they round table with the very people that actually use them. So one thing that I haven't mentioned at the moment, and this is another proposition that's around the corner. So we are looking at our financial services offering. We are partly owned by Mortgage Advice Bureau. In groups, so we've got that strength in networking behind us, but what they've been very good at over the years is working together on existing products, what's good and what's not good about them, how can they be tweaked, actually putting feelers out there about what do you need in where we are right now in the marketplace. Is there something that you haven't got that you wish you had? And our in-house tech team are very good at quickly looking at and developing and put into place some niche whether it's a service within a service or something a little bit different. They will look to incorporate that, and it's because of that collaboration with our partners. So sortmove, it has been born and will continue along that same path. So it's not just for the introducers, estate agents that are using us. They're actually a big part of the input on the feedback and are helping us create this. So if there are any agents out there that are thinking, actually, I'd quite like to be collaborating with a supplier that actually listens to us and takes note of what we need and what we actually want, because of what clients are demanding at the moment, then we periodically we will have less physical roundtables, more Zoom at the moment. But do you know what? That just makes it easier because we're more flexible on time.
Just more efficient, isn't it? And talking about that similar values thing, how does sortmove help agents with that kind of fair, ethical side of things, the transparent referral fees, that element with your agents?
Sure. Yeah. So this is we promote ourselves quite heavily on the transparency. Good timing, I suppose, because there were more news pieces, I think, just before over the weekend about the regulation around this, and personally, I would quite welcome that. We cap the referral fees at £300. Because when you start looking at figures around 450, 500, 550, if you look at that on a proportionality test, the agent will be earning more than 50% of the legal fee. And if I was a client, I'd be thinking, what exactly are you doing to achieve that? Or to what, or to deserve it? Because everybody's got to be transparent. That referral fee has got to be disclosed within the quotes and the terms and conditions. Clients, and I've seen this more and more over the past 3 years, clients are reading those terms and conditions now. Maybe they didn't used to, but they're all over it now. And it's the access of information again. So if they Google referral fees, they'll have access to all these reports and guidance and things like that. So we pride ourselves on being ethical. We cap them at £300. Do you know what the average referral fee, particularly on conveyancing, that our current partners command is somewhere about 175, 200. So it is sensible. They're not asking for this because they appreciate what the product does.
Yes.
But in line with that whole transparency thing, we on our quoting facility. So we're free to use, by the way. I think that's an important point to put out, that there's no charge for using our platform. Agents that register us get their unique account. They can track the business that goes through it, so they can monitor the milestones and the notes, as you would expect, but they can also see their pipeline of ancillary income as well. But the icons that we have in our quoting, quite nifty on conveyancing, because we have the law firms that we onboard. We get them to do a number of things that helps produce detailed and tailored quotes. So things like, if there's a gifted deposit on a purchase, the agent, if they found that out, they can click that. It will build that disbursement additional fee into the fee schedule, so that they're giving the clients a very, very clear and concise schedule of fees, so that there's no irritation further down the line when a client says, oh, actually, yeah, I've got 2 gifted deposits. Right, okay, well, there's another £200 added to your legal fee, and it's like, I'm a first-time buyer. I don't know if I've actually got another £200 that I could spend on legal fees. So actually presenting that information up front just enables clients to budget with confidence, and they thank our estate agents for that. In terms of the suppliers themselves, so we've got lender coverage sorted as well. So we ask our law firms who they can and can't act for, and periodically update that on our system. So if a buyer's using a particular lender, we'll make sure that they're not going to be paired with a law firm that can't act for them, and cut out that waste of time. But in terms of the suppliers themselves, there's I guess there's 2 camps out there. So we have our core panel of, it will be around about 15 to 20 law firms, but we know what the capacity challenges out there. We know how difficult it is at the moment. Conveyancing resource is hard to come by. There are actually estate agents out there that are actually quite happy with their own local relationships. So we're actually creating a light version of sortmove, where we can help nurture and digitize those processes for those relationships. So that would be where classic scenario is, right, well, I'm giving my conveyancing business to Joe Bloggs down the road because he gives me a few probates back every now and again.
Yeah, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, it turns out it's probably one every 3 years that they give them, but the sentiment's there anyway. But what they don't have is the ability to white label their own quote against that. So they've got the control of the quoting. They can't instruct it electronically. So it's a manual process of emailing details across, and you know, the dangers of that going off in the wrong direction and things like that. So we allow relationships to plug into our technology, but they can still utilize the fast start proposition. Because it's sortmove that powers that, and it's sortmove that abeyance manages it, and they'll also still benefit from the free buyer protection as well. So it's not just about the panel that we've got, but we can help bridge that kind of both the technology and the time driving values of our proposition for them to plug into.
So it sounds like a very flexible operation, just dependent on to what level of extent they want to have involvement, really, doesn't it?
Absolutely, but it then gives them the opportunity to investigate other suppliers as well. So if they've got that running through sortmove, what they never think about actually as well is, and again I saw this in both my old world and the new one, is sometimes an agent gets into the mindset of, right, I've converted the seller to conveyancing, and then they don't think about the buyer. And then the buyer could go off and go and use it. We all know there's lots of poor conveyancing operations out there because they're not conveyancing specialists. That just dilutes the service of the progressive one that we've got with the seller if you just end up with somebody that's just trying to do conveyancing from a textbook on the other side. So actually thinking about, right, well, that's actually only half the job done. If we want this to go through the best possible time, if we want that seller to be happy and it go through in a good time, we've got to think about what that buyer's doing as well. So it's important not to forget about actually both sides of the transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned a bit earlier, do you think it's getting harder at the moment, and certainly over the course of the last year, to actually be finding that conveyancing resource? It's certainly, from talking to people, it seems to have just get harder and harder.
It does, yeah, and I mentioned it before that we've got the stamp duty gold rush at the moment, and that has just highlighted the issue, because the problem is when you've got spikes in activity like this, law firms don't have spare conveyancers sat in cupboards ready to pick up caseloads.
It's not like you just employ Moneypenny, is it, and chuck a couple of
no, exactly. So it's a very fine art in terms of capacity managing, but that's why we're creating these kind of relationships, whether it's through core or whether it's through light version law firms, because if we actually create some relationships with law firms that were not overly familiar with ourselves, because it's a connection that a new agent partner's come with, we've then got a new contact. So if we have little bits of spikes in activity and capacity is reaching a limit with our core proposition, we could maybe turn to one of these new conveyancing friends, if you like, and go, I've got someone who's got another 5 cases this month. Have you got the capacity to take on that? And it's having that flexibility to look around. But another thing that we're doing at the moment, which massively helps with this, is, and I used the term before, service within a service, and we're looking at how we can create different types of scenarios in conveyancing firms. So just to give you an example, so as I mentioned before, we've got our own firm, Sort Legal. So to combat the capacity challenge, it was really good timing, actually. Some may disagree, but we opened up a second office in March. In Cardiff. Head office is in Derby. Second office opened in Cardiff just before lockdown. We got all that nicely kitted out, and then they were all sent home. But we deliberately picked there because it's a bit of a hotbed for emerging conveyancing talent. So we've spotted an opportunity there to build teams. So we can directly control that by having that in-house. But what we're also going to look at are niche resource services within our sort legal team. So just to give you an example of that, is something that I call a sale-only proposition. Now that is all those cases that everyone can think of where the seller is not tying in a related purchase. Now, if those cases get mixed in with fee earner teams that are dealing with complex purchase matters, then they really do get mixed up, and they don't actually go through in the right time that they should be going in. So those types of transactions we actually want to strip out and drop in to a ring-fence sale-only team that are only dealing with sale conveyancing. And we take those out of normal fee earners pipelines. Do you know what? It's somewhere in the region of 4 to 5 weeks on average quicker they will go through.
Yeah, again, great news all the time.
It's just looking at the resource that's out there and what we've got. How can we actually use those teams and departments a bit better? And when you start thinking about little things like this, it's not actually necessarily bringing in extra resource. It's looking at utilising what you've got within that firm. And going, right, actually, can we streamline processes a bit better? And that's what it is. It's a process. So if it's a process that works, get good at it and be consistent with it.
If you can work that technology through and the process together, isn't it, to make that resource work better for you? That's obviously got to be the first and most effective way of doing it. That would be a really obvious thing. I say it's an obvious thing to do. It's one of the hardest things to do, isn't it? Is to actually look at existing systems and try and break it back down again as to how it should work. You know, that's where your experience obviously comes in. And Tom, talk me through, why do you think it's so important that agents need to add value to their core proposition? I mean, is it literally just that obviously every business should be looking at that anyway, or?
I think they should, and I think they should be looking at it quite regularly as well. So I did touch on it before, and that is just stopping to think about who are their clients, what do their clients want. And you know, I saw a report not too long ago that produced a statistic. I think that now 1/3 of buyers are millennials. And of course they are wanting to do things differently. They are wanting to communicate through their tablets, laptops, online, however you want to describe it. You know, they don't want heavy paper-based packs landing on the doorstep to fill in. They don't want to be going in and visiting estate agents and law firms.
I often think I'm certainly not a millennial, but I do have the mindset of a millennial. So I can certainly understand that whole demographic. Attention spans are not the greatest, are they, these days?
No. You're right. And you know what? Attention span. I had this conversation with somebody yesterday because it's instant action that they're looking for, and I know there's a lot of law firms out there who disagree with me, but how long some of them take to answer an email, they're not thinking about the client's perceptions of them then at that point. And then if you translate that to an estate agent, if it goes a certain amount of time and they've not responded to something, they're not going to reappear. So looking at these value adds about how you can speed things up, how you can make them transparent, how you can transfer them online. And I'm not talking about being, becoming an online type only agent, but actually how you can incorporate part of your service like an online agent, but still provide that important service. That's what we're looking at.
That's the sort of thing, isn't it? Like, we're all getting very familiar with these days, having online dashboards, whether that's for banking or the ability just to go in and see where you're up to in a process there. That's where you were talking about, that instant access, so that when you've got them in the moment, they can do something very quickly and then move on before they've obviously forgotten. We've obviously got EA Masters tomorrow, the big obviously showcase as it used to be Sunday Times. And one of the angles that I used to love about it was that it would force a lot of people, obviously just thought the awards are baubles, but actually speaking to a lot of the individuals, business owners, what they liked about it is it gave them that opportunity to take time out, strategically look at the business, and to take that whole appraisal you were looking at there. And as you said, if you're finding it, because you get cut up in the humdrum of just day-to-day business, don't you? If you can take yourself out of it for a minute, and you're finding it hard yourself to differentiate yourself on stuff you've done over the last year that again allows you to stand differently from your competition. How the hell are the public ever going to do it if you can't do it? And you need to find those differences very, very quickly, and then reinvigorate the marketing and the pitches at a market appraisal stage, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, and you've got to keep revisiting it as well. So if you make that change, great if you get quick wins and successes out of it, but periodically, look from the outside in. And I use that term a lot, actually, outside in, because I think business owners need to step into the shoes of the consumers, people who may either walk through the door, although that's obviously happening less and less at the moment in today's times, but actually look at the presentation online. Do they fit today's industry and marketplace? Do they look like an agent that's well set up to deal with property transactions in 2020 in the midst of a global pandemic? Very, very quickly, agents have had to look at their processes, look at their services, how they interact with the general public, and if they haven't done that, and they're scratching their heads and wondering why they're not as busy as some others are, if they haven't worked out about reviewing their operation, they've got issues ahead. That's something I used to do quite often, and you know what? One office in particular, I remember it well when I took over it, and it was one of the underperforming branches. Before the staff in that branch knew who I was and I was going there, I actually walked through the front door and pretended to be a client. And within about 15 minutes, I knew why they were an underperforming branch. So it's stepping out every now and again and just looking at it and thinking, do we add value? Do people care about our brand?
So, Tom, turn that on its head. For the agent, what should be the most important thing to consider when selecting a partner for conveyancing? What should they be? What are the right questions they should be quizzing you on, or indeed anyone?
I think it's about how the partnership complements their core business. So as I've talked about already, we're massive on what it does for their estate agency fee, not concentrating on the referral fee, and it's about I suppose having common experiences, if you like. So I'm quite happy to talk about and share ideas and things like that because I've been there and done it. But I also constantly talk to different types of estate agency businesses on a weekly basis, and I'm hearing, I'll hear firsthand about what things are working for different types of agents, and I'll catch them on board. But it's all. Do you know what it is as well at the moment? And there'll be a lot of agents that struggle to grasp this concept, but it's actually about working together, not just with partners of suppliers, but also other agents. Now, I think that collaboration needs to change a little bit for the overall perception of the industry and the client journey, because I think there's still too much friction out there between competition. Whereas, well, actually, if you're part of the same chain, you've all got a common goal to get that through. So why are you looking at yourselves as competition? Now, how actually can you help each other out in those circumstances? Sorry, go on.
I just say it's a really good point. Belittling the competition actually belittles the industry if it's not done in the right way, isn't it? Which, of course, a lot of the time it isn't at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Assessing who to go with, it's who best fits their needs at that given time. So we're not going to create something, sit in our hands and go, this is what we do, take it or leave it. We're going to constantly develop. We're going to constantly evolve. So we've got Fast Start over the line today. We've got our buyer protection. We're looking at other stuff as well. So a big project that we've got coming up next is software and tools around sales progression and chain management. Not that just doesn't look at what's happening in conveyancing, either directly or up and down the chain, but also what's happening in financial services and surveys as well. So we're looking at ways that we can kind of help other, I suppose, firms and organisations out there that do this already. So we're in talks. We're looking at one or two little collaborations as well. We're looking at what we can produce with our own data through the brands within our parent group, and things like this are going to add further value adds to estate agents, because if they're using our core proposition of conveyancing, surveys, reports, etc., they'll get this stuff for free.
Yeah, great. You're, as you said earlier, always thinking, always looking at different additions that will help all these different areas. I often refer to myself as the Peter Pan of property. We've got Tinkerbell Louise Moss here. She talks about speed, transparency, dashboards, easy to use. That's what us youngsters work. So there we are.
Nail on the head.
We've heard it from the audience there. And look, Tom, so in terms of, if you had any advice for agents today, in today's marketplace, what would it be and why?
Oh, advice today. So I suppose I would look at this as a wraparound, I suppose, of what I've discussed today. So firstly, look at that seller piece. That's their bread and butter. Are they looking at that seller from the different propositions, the different services on offer? Do they understand what that seller wants? Do they understand what they're looking for from an agent before they've actually engaged with that agent? And take a look at that, but then make sure that they're talking about it positively, and making themselves sound trustworthy as that property specialist, and setting up these things like the fast start conveyancing. So I mean, I looked at research on this a few years ago, looked at a good number of cases, and it was around about 60%. Of seller cases didn't instruct conveyancing until sale agreed, and I doubt it's much different now. So it's looking at their own numbers as well. You know, how many are we consistent with it? So if you've got your process right, or you know what you want your process to be, stick to it and be consistent with it, and they will then get the perception of being the best marketing agent or the best full service agent within their towns, cities, locations, wherever they're at. So that'd be the first thing, is just to truly understand their positioning for sellers. Secondly is that buyer strategy as well. So a lot of people I talk to thinks you can't influence buyers. They just do their own thing. They're being influenced by their own mortgage advisor, things like that. You can influence them, but it's when you influence them. And so I touched on it before about actually what is the strength of their offer. Yes, it might be the right price that the seller's looking for, but that seller probably also wants speed, particularly if it's an empty property and it's costing them mortgage payments every month. So what are they going to do to make sure that that goes through in a much quicker time? So if they can add weight to their offer, which we're talking about with our conveyancing and free buyer protection propositions, that's going to make transactions go through quicker. So you can influence buyers. It's all about the timing and the conversation that they have with them. And thirdly, it is again what we've touched on, reviewing who you're collaborating with. Don't stand still in today's marketplace. So for example, see, I will look at other propositions as well, and I will talk to them about agents. So I know recently you had Michelle on from UC Homes. I know Michelle from LSL days. I've got to catch up with her later this week. But at first glance, from what I've seen, that looks like an excellent proposition for what is needed in today's marketplace on there. So look at the emerging tech that's coming out there and assess actually, would that complement our business? Would it streamline processes? And keep looking at it. And of course, platforms like Kerfuffle will help them to understand the emerging players and what they're all about.
That's certainly what we hope to do here. We try to bring light to the dark and everything, all that stuff there. We're going to talk about actually a nice offer you've got for Kerfuffle members as well in a minute. But if you were to specifically highlight to me now and to anybody in sort of an elevator pitch, what 3 reasons why should they use SortMove?
Firstly, I guess the technology. that we've got. So our in-house team, they're multi-award winning through Sort Refer and Sort Legal, so they have won awards year after year. So we've got that in place, so we can look at new propositions, new services, and get them out in reasonably quick time. Technology is important. That leads on to the second point, the human element. So technology will never take over 100%. The home moving process. You still need people to build rapport with clients. Sort Move in particular, I'm building a team of home move advisors who can help estate agents with their proposition, be on hand and guide them and remind them when best to have these types of conversations and what the products do, etc. And I think thirdly, it's that idea around speed. So we've got technology, we've got people, and we're looking at speed. Speed to get those transactions through, speed to get sellers sale ready at the right time, speed to make sure buyers are doing things in the right time, because speed reduces the risk of fall through.
So ostensibly, you have that vision in mind, like speed is the goal we're getting to via the people and the technology and the experience. That's how we're going to get there, isn't it? And that's going to just keep feeding on each other to help you keep delivering in that respect, isn't it?
Yeah. And technology facilitates the speed. It's the people. You still need the people to talk about it and convince people and show people. Actually, educate them. So I often talk about in estate agency telling, not selling. Because and the way I used to present it quite clearly to sellers about the differences between something that uses it and something that doesn't, that's me telling and educating. I don't need to sell it at that point because they buy into it because they can see it.
Peter, I want to show you on the dark side, Simon. I don't know if he's still talking about our rather dark background on here today,
okay.
Or whether he just thinks I'm some.
But he probably heard the word conveyancing and thought, oh yeah,
that's it. So, would you mind just highlighting there? You've got a great deal on the table for our Kerfuffle members, Tom.
Yeah, two things. So we wanted to look both at the business owners, but also those that are in the coalface of estate agency as well. So firstly, for business owners, I'll give for free a 1-hour consultation on best practices around things that we've talked about today, the services that we've got. Look, we haven't talked extensively about the referral fees, but yes, it is an important income stream and will continue to be so in this market. But we would focus on the tool itself and what it does for their business. So I'll give that as a 1-hour consultation for Kerfuffle members. Secondly, we want to look at the people, I suppose the colleagues on the ground that are actually doing the telling of this service and converting clients. Because often they'll think, well, what if I'm talking about this? What's in it for me as a negotiator? So we'll help a little bit with that. We will do monthly voucher draws for instructions that come through via Kerfuffle members on conveyancing. So we'll have £250 worth of vouchers up for grabs each month, and we'll run that well into next year because we want to keep some momentum going on that. So as long as if they do at least one instruction in a month, they'll enter a prize draw for two £50 draws. If they do at least 3 instructions in a month, they'll go into the draw for that and also for a £150 voucher.
Points win prizes. I think you've understood our client base very well there. Thank you for that, Tom. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for certainly the consultancy. Look, one of the key things I take away from this about SortMove and the group itself is, look, you've been around here over a decade now, learned it, that one-stop shop of knowledge and technology there, feeding off each other with that view to ultimately bring down time in what is obviously quite and the face of it, antiquated, obviously, system is absolutely fantastic. So, Tom, thank you very much. What I'd suggest everyone is either reach out to Tom directly and just mention you're a Kerfuffle member. Please go have a look at their top-rated reviews on the landing page as well. And if you are happy client, please leave other ones there as well for them. There's a I'm interested button on there, and please, if you do want to just reach out to them, we'll forward those through to Tom himself. That's absolutely fantastic. We've done over the hour today there, Tom. You've done well. Normally I like to have a little bit of a, what was it Del Boy used to call it? A little bit of a fiesta in the afternoon, but you've kept me going.
I apologise for interrupting that time, Simon.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Thank you, Tom. Really
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll catch up. We'll stay in touch, and be good to hear from some of your end clients as well.
Lovely.